One game makes you feel like a Hollywood action hero, cracking jokes while jumping off crumbling buildings with a grappling hook. The other makes you feel like you've done something terrible, and you can't stop playing anyway. Same studio, same PlayStation, completely different souls. Today, we're putting two of Naughty Dog's greatest works face to face, The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered on PS5 and Uncharted 4 at Thief's End, not to declare a winner, but to figure out what each one does that the other simply cannot. And by the end of this video, you might realize they tell you more about each other than they ever could standing alone. Let's set the stage. Naughty Dog is one of the most celebrated game studios on the planet, and these two titles represent the peak of everything they've built. Uncharted 4: A Thief's End launched back in 2016 on PlayStation 4. It was the grand send-off to Nathan Drake, the lovable, wisecracking treasure hunter who'd been with us since 2007. The game went on to win over 150 Game of the Year awards, sold over 18 million copies, and is widely considered one of the greatest PlayStation games ever made. Then came The Last of Us Part 2. Released in 2020 on PS4, just months before the PS5 hit shelves, it was one of the most anticipated and controversial sequels in gaming history. It won over 300 Game of the Year awards, making it the most decorated game ever at the time, but it also divided players unlike anything before it. Fast forward to January 2024, Naughty Dog dropped The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered on PS5 with upgraded visuals, full DualSense integration, and a brand new roguelike survival mode called No Return, a $10 upgrade if you own the original, free if you're new to the nightmare. So here we are in 2026, with both of these games still being talked about, still being replayed, and still starting arguments on the internet. Let's break them down together. This is where these two games live in completely different universes. Uncharted 4's story is fundamentally about love, for adventure, for family, for the life you gave up. Nathan Drake has retired. He's got a house, a mortgage, a loving wife named Elena, normal life. But when his brother Sam, someone he thought was dead, walks back in, Nate can't resist the pull. The story takes you across the globe chasing the lost treasure of Captain Henry Avery, jumping between Nate's troubled childhood and his present-day adventure. Writers Neil Druckmann and Josh Scher gave us characters that feel like real people, people who lie to each other, hurt each other, and still choose each other in the end. The ending of Uncharted 4 is genuinely one of the most satisfying conclusions in gaming. It doesn't go dark or try to shock you. It earns its warmth. And if you've played every Uncharted before it, that final chapter will absolutely get to you. The Last of Us Part 2 throws all of that warmth in the trash and sets it on fire. Set 5 years after Joel's controversial decision at the Firefly base, Ellie is now living in a Wyoming settlement until an act of brutal violence tears her world apart and sends her to Seattle on a mission of revenge. But here's where Part 2 does something almost no game has dared. It makes you play both sides of the same conflict. You play as Ellie, then midway through, you play as Abby, the person Ellie wants dead, and the game forces you to understand her, to feel for her, to root for her. That choice split the fanbase down the middle. Some called it a masterpiece of perspective storytelling, exploring trauma, the cycle of violence, what revenge actually cost you. Others felt emotionally manipulated and were furious at where the story went with beloved characters. What's undeniable is this: the story of The Last of Us Part 2 stays with you. It's not comfortable, it's not fun in the traditional sense, but 5 years later, 6 years, people are still processing it. Verdict on story. Uncharted 4 gives you a blockbuster with heart. The Last of Us Part 2 gives you a war with yourself. Both are masterclasses, just in completely different genres of human emotion. Now let's talk about actually playing these things. Uncharted 4 refined everything the series had built over 9 years.
The grappling hook, new to this game, completely changed how traversal felt. Suddenly, Nate could swing across gaps, yank enemies off ledges, and rappel down cliff faces in the middle of gunfights. The environments are massive and varied. Scottish castles, Madagascar jungles, pirate ruins in Madagascar, a literal underground pirate colony. The game introduces vehicles for the first time in the series. The Jeep sequence through Madagascar is one of the most jaw-dropping set pieces in PlayStation history. Combat offers a mix of stealth and all-out firefights, and the AI is smart enough to flank you, call out your position, and adopt. But at its core, Uncharted 4 is designed to feel spectacular. Every shootout feels like a blockbuster movie moment. The cover system is fluid, the animations are phenomenal, and dying never feels punishing, because the game keeps you moving forward. There's also a full multiplayer mode, which adds a second layer of life to the package. Unfortunately, by 2026, the servers have wound down, but at launch it was a genuinely enjoyable extension of the gameplay. The Last of Us Part 2 approaches gameplay from a completely different philosophy: consequence. Every encounter feels dangerous. Every bullet matters. The crafting system, building medkits, shivs, molotovs, smoke bombs from found scraps, forces you to think before every encounter. Do you stealth through and save your arrows, or go loud and use your ammo, risking everything around the corner? The AI in Part 2 is the most impressive in any third-person action game. Enemies call out to each other by name, so when you kill someone named Mike, you hear Mike scream across the room, and the rest of the enemy's behavior changes. They panic, they flank harder, they stop rushing. Dogs can actually smell you and track your footsteps. It creates a level of tension nothing else has matched. The melee system is visceral and weighty. Punching through enemies feels brutal in a way that's intentional. This game doesn't want combat to feel fun. It wants it to feel like something you survived. Now, the Remastered edition adds something called No Return, a roguelike survival mode where you pick a character, run through randomized encounters, and try to survive as long as possible. You can play as Ellie, Abby, Dina, Jesse, Lev, and more, each with different playstyles. This mode alone justifies the Remastered for returning players. It's the closest thing to infinite replay value that The Last of Us Part 2 has ever had, and it's surprisingly addictive. Verdict on gameplay? Uncharted 4 is a joy to play, fluid, spectacular, empowering. The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered is tense, punishing, and strategic. One makes you feel like a hero, the other makes you feel human. Now, the part everyone wants to see. How do these two actually look? When Uncharted 4 launched in 2016, it was the best-looking game on PlayStation 4. No debate. The environments had a level of detail that left people pausing just to stare at them. Thick Madagascar jungles, rain-soaked Scottish ruins, sunlit pirate markets. The lighting system was extraordinary for its time. The PS5 version, released as part of the Legacy of Thieves collection, bumped it to 4K and 60 FPS, and added DualSense haptic feedback. You feel rope tension in the triggers. You feel punches. It breathes new life into the game's physicality. But here's the honest truth. The animations in Uncharted 4 on PS5 still carry the DNA of a 2016 game. The character faces, while detailed, have a slight plastic quality compared to what Naughty Dog achieved just 4 years later. The Last of Us Part 2 was already considered the best-looking PS4 game ever made, and that's on last-gen hardware. The jump to Remastered on PS5 brings native 4K in Fidelity mode, 60 FPS in Performance mode, and significantly improved texture detail, foliage rendering, and lighting depth. The most noticeable upgrade is the lighting. The PS5 version is darker, more dramatic, and on an HDR OLED screen, it's jaw-dropping. Rainwater on Ellie's jacket, the way mold and spores catch light in overgrown buildings, the facial animation during emotional cutscenes, these are the most realistic human faces ever rendered in a video game at the time of the original release, and they still hold up today in 2026. DualSense integration in the Remastered is also exceptional. You feel the draw of a bowstring in the adductive triggers, the rumble of footsteps. It's subtle, but it makes the whole experience feel more real. Verdict on graphics. Both games are stunning. Uncharted 4 wins for sheer beauty and color palette, but The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered wins for technical achievement, animation fidelity, and how deeply the visuals serve the tone of the story. By 2026, both of these games have cemented their place in gaming history, but in very different ways. Uncharted 4 is beloved almost universally. It's the game you hand to someone who's never played a PlayStation exclusive and say, start here. It's the definition of accessible, emotional, polished blockbuster gaming. Over 150 Game of the Year awards, 18 million copies sold, a gold standard for action-adventure storytelling. The Last of Us Part 2 is a different kind of legacy. It provoked reaction, deep, passionate, sometimes painful reaction. It won more Game of the Year awards than any game ever had, but it also had some of the most polarizing reviews in gaming history. People who loved it really loved it. People who hated it really hated it. And that's what art does. The remastered version in particular has given a new generation of players the chance to experience it for the first time, at its best, with no return mode extending the playtime for veterans who thought they were done with it. And in 2026, the debate is still going. That's remarkable for any piece of media. What both games have in common is this. They represent Naughty Dog at two different peaks. Uncharted 4 is Naughty Dog at its most joyful, celebrating everything they built over a decade. The Last of Us Part 2 is Naughty Dog at its most bold, willing to make you uncomfortable, willing to risk everything for the story they wanted to tell.